welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Corbie Mitleid. She is a certified tarot master, past life specialist, psychic medium, inspirational teacher, and author. Welcome to the show, Corbie.
Ajay, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online format. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the world will benefit from what we are going to talk about. This concerns everyone. We'll be talking about past life, karma, and reincarnation. Almost everyone wants to know about their past life. Have you found out about your past life, Corbie? You talk about others' past life, so let me ask you this.
Yes, I found a couple of them because we have more than one. We need several for us to go through learning and bringing information back to our souls, our higher selves. So I have picked up about 3, 4 of my own, a life in 15th century England, in 19th century America, in World War I, and the life immediately before this one in Chicago in the 1920s and 30s.
Right, right. Did you find yourself in any past life in this part of the world, especially India?
I have not had that fortune yet, but I'm sure there's one in there somewhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That would be interesting to know. The day you find out, do let us know. And maybe this is, why people say that, we are all so connected in one way or the other through this life
Yes.
or several other lives in the past. For the general understanding of people, but before I come to that question, I want to understand you come from a medical family. There, people are
Yes, I
very
do.
educated and all, and then you took this line. How did they respond? Look at this. How did you come to this line? And isn't it interesting? Because people who have a lot of reasons uh, are looking. One person from that family is looking at reasons which people are still trying to understand. Help us this transition of yours.
Well, I was the actress and the writer, and I often say the hippie rebel because I grew up in the 1960s and early 70s. And for me, words were magic. I knew that there was literally magic in the world, and my family was very this world based. So in 1973, I was working part time at a place called Spencer Gifts, and that was the year the movie Live and Let Die came out with Jane Seymour, the card reader. And they had the James Bond 007 tarot deck, and I bought it. So that started me on the road, and I read cards for 20 years for friends, making sure that I kept my ego out of the way so the message was clear. Then all of a sudden, in the early 1990s, I suppose the universe felt I had done enough early work that all of a sudden I could do hands-on healing, speak to those who have crossed over, and begin to see past lives for people. That's when I started this work part-time. Full-time, I started on 9/11 when the towers burned, and I watched them with my husband, and I said, I need to do the psychic work full-time. People must know that there are other answers out there other than fear.
That's something I'm just trying to think. At that moment about 9/11, and you thought about that. Tell us a bit more about that. How did that part progress? Did people come more to you after that? If yes, then what did they want to know about? About whatever they could know about themselves.
Well, part of it is I live in New York State, which is only about 3 hours north of New York City. And I had worked in New York City when I was acting in the 80s and 90s. So it was very visceral. People, that was the wake up call for many, many Americans that they had to know that there was something else out there, that this was not random. that this was not an uncaring universe. So they wanted to know why. They wanted to, of course, speak to their own people who had passed over. They wanted to know, was this bad karma? And I had to explain to them how the idea of karma as bad and good, that is, if you will, a kindergartner's idea. Karma is, from what I understand, 5 things: healing, service, contrast, healing of beliefs, and unbalanced energy. God is not so awful that God enjoys seeing us suffer. When we come down on earth in this place of duality, it is where we can learn certain things that you cannot learn when you are out of the body. The example I like is the white room. If you are in a white room with white carpets and white furniture, and the piano has only white keys and you're in white, you have no idea about the concept of blue. Eskimos, 250 words for snow, not one for palm tree. They don't know what it is. So when people understand that even the tough things we go through have value and that our souls choose them for learning, they understand it's not that people are bad or good. It's these are very brave, courageous souls choosing to help the world learn through certain ways, certain things that happen.
Right, right. Help me understand. You said it's a place of duality. What does that mean? And who are these brave souls? And how are they helping us learn? Do you mean good people, bad people? Who are these people who are helping us learn through whatever they are going through?
The example that I love using is a young boy named Ryan White. He contracted AIDS from a blood transfusion in the late 80s when we didn't know much about AIDS at all. So his entire family was treated like pariahs. Then he makes friends with the singer Elton John, who gets very close to the family. Elton played at his funeral. Ryan inspired Elton to go to rehab to get off drugs and drinking and everything like that. And in Ryan's memory, Elton started the Elton John AIDS Foundation, which has raised over $500 million for global AIDS and HIV research. The old way of thinking was Ryan White must have been an awful person before because look at what happened to him. That's bad karma. When instead you understand karma is learning and giving to the world, Ryan's soul looked at the possibility and said, it's a short life and it's a hard one, but look at what we can cause for the world. So in that sense, Ryan's karma was that of service. And that was a courageous soul because he was willing to take a short, painful life in order to change the world in huge, beneficial ways.
Okay, okay, that's a great way of looking things, and a new perspective at looking at things. Then is it that uh, how do we define then good and bad in this life? Then everyone who have their own hidden agendas or anything else, they will say, you don't understand these things, but actually I am trying to do something good for the world. You will not understand it today, maybe tomorrow. How do we? I know this question may not
Some,
perfectly fit. Yeah, but minds can be, very different.
it's okay. Sometimes our karma is just for our own learning. That is part of it. The way I explain the difference between the personality we have down here and our souls is actors. There is an actor named Matt Smith. He was the 11th Doctor on Doctor Who. After he was done playing that part, he became Prince Philip for Queen Elizabeth in the first 2 seasons of The Crown. Now he's playing some warrior person on House of the Dragon. Matt Smith is like our higher self, our soul. The doctor, the prince, and the warrior are like our incarnations. They are very different from each other, They may not have anything in common, but the soul has decided, I'm going to learn compassion in this life and honesty in this one and the value of life in this one. That's why, I mean, no one in the world will say that Donald Trump is a wonderful person. We won't. But we don't know what his soul has to learn going through what he went through. We don't know how America needs to change by the huge duality of those who believe in violence and those who believe in changing through democratic means. So you can't just say Donald Trump is awful. It may feel that way, but on some level, his soul agreed to play a part so that all of us could learn and choose. It doesn't mean you don't fight what looks awful, but it means that you don't get caught up in the personality. You have to go deeper.
Right, Corbie. A lot of these thinking about past life, karma, and reincarnation has is from our this side of the world. People have come to
Yes.
understand. A lot of people have come down to India and try to understand things from
Mhm.
their perspective. A lot of people in that part of the world had different understanding about. Many people believed, and still I guess, is that there is no life after this. It is just uh, this life, and maybe people talk of afterlife, and I don't have a very great understanding of that understanding. But
Mhm.
I see now a lot of people trying to understand these things in a world which is so much moving towards more technologic things, and thought perhaps people will get more understanding, but they seem to be moving towards things which are much more philosophical, much more deeper, and maybe that is what. How do you look at this? What is the reason behind a lot of people trying to understand about things which perhaps earlier on they would find as something very different?
In hundreds of years ago, when you had very little contact with the greater part of the world, you understood life through what you were told: the church, the mosque, the synagogue, the druid healer. They told you what to believe and you believed it. Now, when we are so exposed to so many different ideas, and we're finding that there are common threads in all of them, even if we've never contacted before, that's when we think there is something up there we need to understand. And the technological, 100 years ago, it would have been seen as magic, and now we have it. They're talking about Star Trek warp speed. They're talking about being able, are there different universes? Right now, that may feel like magic. In 150 years, the world may go, of course, we know this. So we try to understand the world, and we try to understand what goes beyond. My amused philosophy is we're not bright enough to get it done in one life. We're just not. And for those who say, but the Christian Bible says one life and done, they are correct if they're talking about these single personalities. Ajay, Corbie, this recipe will never be here again. It is the soul, the core, that comes down time and time again to learn as much as it can.
Absolutely, Corby. Everybody is right. There is no right or wrong about it. And as you say, when knowledge gets constricted by vested interests or people, then that is a different story altogether.
Yes,
And
very
I may
much.
not be aware about certain things, like for pizza, many people do not know about it, but I may like a piece of pizza here and there, maybe not. So
Mhm.
when you know about things, then you start appreciating the good things everywhere. The same way about
Yes.
medicine, you see people are learning more about alternative medicine. There is so much, even Chinese medicine, so many good things are hidden in so many different uh, corners of the world, as if, God very intelligently spread them everywhere. And it is up to
Yes.
we humans to pick them up. It's the same is, I guess, about knowledge. And you are only one has is only very limited in mind if you are limiting your thoughts in terms of acquiring that knowledge from wherever it is. This is my understanding, Corby.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And by no means am I the be all and end all of this. What I remind my clients is even the best of us is only 85% accurate. The only one 100% accurate is God, and God is not doing podcasts this week. So there you go.
Absolutely. So, where do you generally gather all your knowledge, understanding of these things? Where do you have any reference manual or many manuals or books, that wisdom? How have you attained so much to even talk about 85% accuracy? That's a very good amount of, the accuracy, I must tell you. Even ChatGPT is not that much correct. Our Bard is not that much correct. They say it can have hallucinations.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm 68 years old, and that's an awful lot of life to live. So a lot of it is experience. Much of it is the work that I did with Robert Schwartz in his book series on life between lives and pre-birth planning. Those books are Your Soul's Plan, Your Soul's Gift, and Your Soul's Love. And as you do the work as intensely as we have done, you learn and you take notes. And this is my full-time work. I have sessions with about 1,000 people a year. That brings knowledge on a lot of different levels.
Right, right. Now, let me ask you, you talk about past life. So, if for a person, how would you put it? Why is knowing about past life important? Is it important at all? And then when you talk
It,
about reincarnation, then how do you explain, especially a Western audience, what reincarnation is all about? What is its meaning? Why do you come again on this earth? People generally think we are done. In this younger people, they use this word YOLO, you only live once. But here we talk about reincarnation.
Again, I explained the difference between the soul and the personalities. We only come down once. Um, but past lives, I do not encourage people to just say, I want to know about my past lives. Give me some. Because I could find a life that is absolutely correct, but if it has no meaning for you here, it won't resonate. The example I use is a client who came to me and said, I'm very worried about my son. He's 29 years old. He won't make any decisions without me. He won't live more than a mile from me. He's too scared to. Why is this happening? And I was able to quickly go into trance and see the past life. And I said, I'm seeing 1944 on Utah Beach. So this is D-Day. Your son is a soldier on the beach. He's got a lot of shrapnel in his leg. You're his commanding officer. And I see you crawling over the dune and pulling him to safety. You got some shrapnel too, but you both left and you lived. And when I opened my eyes from the trance, she looked at me and said, can you see my rank? And I said, yes, you were a sergeant. She looks at me and says, he's called me Sarge since he was 3 years old, and we never knew where he got it or why. So Sarge being nicknamed for sergeant, she understood that because she had saved his life in a previous incarnation, that bond was that strong. And if she could explain this to her son, she felt she could, it would enable him to move aside and learn to stretch himself, because he's not going to be shot up on a beach again in this lifetime. So when we understand that we have resonances from these past lives that affect us now, we can, if you will, unplug the charge of them. Sometimes it is things like that. I saw a past life for a woman who was very interested in the American Civil War. She didn't know where it came from. And after I gave her this detailed past life, I opened my eyes and she is crying And she said, I have had that exact dream for 20 years and I never knew where it came from. On the other hand, if you are a janitor in Mumbai and all of a sudden you find that you were Napoleon Bonaparte just because somebody told you, are you really going to want to continue with the mop? No, it doesn't help you, which is one of the reasons we don't remember a lot of our past lives, because we don't want to be entertained watching the last movie when we're supposed to be acting in this one.
Right, right. So is it the only reason that that in one case it is 6 June 1944, if I remember, that gets cast in stone forever in the in the memories, and in different lives, and for many of them it does not. Why is it? Because God chooses it, or you choose it, or is it because some people are fortunate enough to come across Corbie Mitleid and she is able to tell you about that?
If you're meant to remember a past life, you will. The life that I remember for myself from World War I knew nothing about World War I was afraid of Germans because of what I knew about them from World War II. But 30 years ago, I went to a museum in America where the planes fly, and they were flying World War I planes that day. And all of a sudden I saw 2 German planes from the time take off, and it was there was a soundless explosion in my head. I had to know about them all of a sudden. I was no longer afraid of Germans. I wanted to learn about the Germans. I wanted to learn to speak German. Why? Because that past life had certain keys for me in this life that I had to look at and get past in order to move ahead with the work I had to do. So that's an example of nobody came to me about past lives, but it was immediately in evidence why I needed to learn.
Right. I'll come to the reincarnation part. There is a comment I see from Morning Star. I'm trying to understand that. If you can read it and see if it needs an answer or an understanding from you.
Okay, you assume that people reincarnate, but neither of you actually see the dead return. Not true. One of the things that I have, for whatever reason, is I can be a doorway for those that I call are caught in the gray spaces. Parts of their souls are still here from trauma. And I first learned about this years ago when I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. All of a sudden, what appeared in my living room was a soldier from World War I. This much of his face was gone, apparently had been blown off. And I think that it was drawn to me because I had remembered I was a World War I soldier. And the things that he needed to forgive the person who killed him. He needed to forgive himself for those he killed and know that he was welcome in heaven. And I was able to help him transition. So the idea that no, you never see dead people. My own stepmother is a perfect example. We held her memorial several months after she died. And someone who spoke there said, I can't believe she's been gone since February. This was her backdoor neighbor, because I saw Shirley in the garden 3 weeks ago and I came down and spoke to her. She didn't say anything, but she nodded, but she was standing right there like it was really her. I can't believe that she's been dead since February. So yes, people see the dead.
Okay, okay. Why do people take reincarnation? Is it for a particular, some things you have already explained, but I wanted to touch this in a wider manner, is that what is the purpose of that? Secondly, you talk about karma. Is it the same philosophy that we in India or Hinduism, we follow it or understand it? What is your understanding or others' understanding in your part of the world about karma is? Because it's very linked to reincarnation. And is how does this reincarnation happen? Means only some people reincarnate, or everyone has that capacity to? Because again, in Hinduism, it has a bit of a different meaning. I'm sure you know it, or maybe we can talk about it.
I would say let's talk about it. And as I said, I am completely open to the idea that I don't have all the answers. But so far in my decades of work, this is what seems to be the theory that makes sense. Everyone can reincarnate, all souls can, but not all souls choose to.
Okay, so
So,
it's the choice of the soul.
yes, it absolutely is the choice of the soul. Some
Okay,
souls are more comfortable outside of a corporeal existence. Some souls, like me, this one comes down, has the adventures, learns, brings it back. People who are teachers, they've probably been down here quite a bit.
right, right. In Indian system or Indian understanding, a lot of, I'm also not a master, but whatever I've grown understanding is that
Yes.
it is like, the zero sum equation, that you take different births and you try to put all things in perspective for yourself, whether good karma, bad karma, and then when you become square with everything, or the right way, you have balanced everything in your account, then you go back to the ultimate being. That's the Brahma. You become part of the, and some people call it Nirvan, Mukti, or different manners. It's said in different versions. It has people, again, people look at it in their own manner, but this is say you take birth not only as a human being, but even in the form of a different animal or anything. The reason why human birth is considered to be so important is that, that it got intellect. You got that sense of right and wrong, and you
Yes.
got that wisdom to know things, correct things, take the right path, so that you can clear all the balance and everything, and be part of the Almighty once again, the way people want to see it, whoever it is. I'm just,
Yes.
yeah, carry on.
That's actually, we're probably talking on the same way. There are what I refer to as transcendental souls who didn't have to come back down, but choose to do it as a gift to humanity. Look at Yogananda. Um, we are not all that fortunate to be able to come down as transcendental souls, but eventually the soul has learned everything it wants to learn here, and then, if you will, goes into the all. Because the closer we get to altruism, compassion, truth, serenity, we are more in our soul's being now. The things that go away are anger, depression, hypochondria, addictions. Those are all tools that our higher self uses to construct a life of learning. So, what you're talking about, I think, is very much aligned with how I see it. We're just coming at it from two culturally diverse viewpoints.
Beautiful, beautiful. uh, why did God, or everyone who looks at it, whoever created this, creator, God Almighty, whoever it is, why did
Mhm.
he created this grand fabric in this, in this grand scheme of things? Why did he create it like that? In Mahabharata, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord himself says that, Lord Krishna, that it's all illusion, Maya, and you got to see through it, and it is
Mhm.
I who have devised everything for a purpose. So you got to see through it and live your life, and fulfill the purpose of your life. How do you see this? Look at it differently if you want to, in your own way. Why have whoever has designed this has designed it in so in its own manner, with so many universe, multiverse. Even Lord Krishna talks about it, even during his childhood, when he talks about, now we are discussing about, so people sometimes refer to that also as some explanation, that earlier on there was somebody who was talking about multiverse, when they wanted to talk about Lord Brahma, when he had a bit of an ego, that listen, it is only one. He could bring about thousands of Brahmas, and Lord Brahma could understand that, okay, he was unnecessarily being having a lot of I about the ego, but actually there are thousands of Brahmas in several universes. So how do you look at it from your point of view? Why we are here? Why is it this whole fabric, this grand fabric of the universe, the way it is? What is the reason behind it?
Ajay, if I knew that, I could start my own religion. I do not presume to know the mind of God. The way I explain it to people is, it's like trying to teach an ant calculus. Not only does his little pea brain not understand numbers, he can't hold the pencil in his little paw. It just, maybe someday our souls will be large enough, deep enough to understand why God, Brahma, the immanence, has created this. We're an experiment. We are a book of learning. It's why you don't get attached to your ego, because your ego doesn't matter. It's a coat. It's a coat you put on. When I do medical intuitive work, sometimes my father will come in as a guide. My father was a brilliant cardiologist and a beloved doctor, but he doesn't come in with all of the personality quirks that made life difficult for him. He comes in with his compassion and his medical knowledge and his incisive ability to look at a situation and give me knowledge that, as someone who does not know medicine, I shouldn't have, but it comes out of my mouth. Okay. So that's the key example. A lot of the things that we do down here that don't make sense to us are merely tools in the experiment of God to learn, because there's love and there's compassion. We are all parts of God, and the closer we get to God, the more cohesive the universe is. But we have work to do first.
Absolutely, absolutely. Lots of work to do first.
Yeah.
Help me understand one thing. We talk about past lives.
Mhm.
Many people are curious to learn about their future. That's basically
Mhm.
what they want. The desires and everything. They want to
Yeah.
get into this life, achieve. Do people ask you about their future lives? If I understand, in this whole scheme of things,
Mhm.
there is nothing called past and future. It's all there. It's just
Time is
that
a
we
web,
are,
not a line.
yes,
Yes.
we are just moving in our own pace. That's how we are also trying to
Mhm.
understand our existence through the Big Bang theory, and the Webb telescope is looking at stars billions and billions of years, so that we can know how we came into existence, how this universe came into, our galaxy came into existence in terms of lives. Nothing, we in the West also, I guess people talk about that we exist in 7 worlds at the same time. People have talked it in movies. I'm sure there are many more conversations even in this part.
Yes.
How, why is it then that we don't look at trying to find about more about future? We don't are not able to see the future that ways, but we are only able to see the past, when everything else is very much out in the open, if we look at it that way.
I think part of it is simply how our brains are structured. We can say intellectually we know time is a web, not a line, but our incarnations are in this linear point. To learn about a future life doesn't help this one. To learn about a past life, we may understand why we come in with certain things. But just as we're not supposed to constantly watch the old movie, we're not supposed to watch the trailers for the new movie either. We're supposed to be in this movie, live in this movie, act in this movie. So I do not get people's past lives, and I explain to them, it's because this personal bit of your soul, this personal life, this personal experience, 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 is more interested in where we are now. So that's why you look at, here are my opportunities and how to grab them. Here's the tough stuff. Here's how to work around it. Here's my toolbox to make a good life. And they accept that.
Right, right. Such an interesting thing to talk about these things. We are all trying to understand these things, and as we do so, we try to understand ourselves better. Many a times, you just travel within, and you have traveled the universe, because our bodies are not capable of traversing traversing through multi universes, but our mind can certainly take us there. Just
Yes,
we
it
need to
can.
close our minds, and that is
Yes.
where I guess a lot. But in terms of people who come to you, what is the process that you adopt? They do it on. Do you tell about their past lives online? Do they need to come to you? What is the process, so that people can connect with you and learn more from you?
I work online. I often joke that somebody from Barcelona does not need to come to upstate New York with the sheep and the cows to work with me. Zoom, as you can see, works beautifully. It's just like being there. So anytime that people want to work with me on past lives, they're welcome to go to my website and make an appointment, and we will see what we can find.
Okay. It's possible to tell them about their past by this new technology. We can all be in front of each other, like we are
Yes,
sitting face to face.
yes, and absolutely.
Right. How do people, what's the best way for them to connect with you, Corbie?
The very best way is through my website, which is corbiemitleid.com. There are articles there. There are at least 24 different kinds of appointments that people can do, so that they can find exactly what is going to help them. I work 6 days a week. You can't have me on Wednesdays, but that's about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. We as humans have the great, advantage that we can take off, but God, in His grand scheme of things, never takes a moment off, and that is what That is what is the special privilege of being a human being on in this mortal life, and in this illusion called, the universe, multiverse, or whatever we want to call it. With this, it's a
Absolutely
wrap.
true.
Right. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
It was a pleasure.